Hello, welcome to Direct Joy. Happy lunchtime. How are we? It's been a few weeks again. I think we're going to go to fortnightly, aren't we? And we'll stick with the consistency. So, hello, welcome. My name is Cherie. I am a psychotherapist, a counsellor, to kind of bring my experience and wisdom from emotional and mental well-being and bring it to you to talk about some hot topics, stuff that comes up in the press, stuff that comes up in our worlds, anything really that is going on. And the idea is that this came up March last year. So yeah, happy birthday, Direct Joy. The idea is that we get to talk about things from an emotional and mental health and well-being, because we all have a mental health, we all have an emotional life, and we all have stuff going on, but we can't all necessarily access therapy. We don't necessarily want to, we don't necessarily need to. And so this is kind of giving us a little bit of a insight into what I believe is helpful to know about emotional and mental well-being, and discussion is always good. So let me have your comments and let me know your feedback. So today we are talking about choice, and it's an interesting one actually, because there are so many things that we do have choice over. Choice is defined as two or more possibilities, but it doesn't always feel like that, does it? We don't always actually feel like that is what's truly going on for us, and the world. So at lots of different micro and macro and internal and external levels, do we really have choice? And the other thing that choice is defined by surprised me. And I'm an English student, by trade originally before psychology. And so I love to look into the meanings of words and translations, as I'm sure you know from previous Direct Joys. And so this definition surprised me because it talks about choice words. And actually that is so absolutely really important to what we're talking about in this Direct Joy today, because choice words are defined as rude or abusive. And I really want to underscore today that this Direct Joy is not about the places in life, in our past, in our present, in our future, where we don't have choice, because there are so many things that we experience that are out of our control and where things are imposed upon, and that is not where we're at. So we're not talking about the choices where there is abuse involved. So it's really important for me to underscore that. We're talking about the choices and the discernment and the decisions and the actions that we do have within our adult capacity, and the things that where we get to an impasse, we get to a stuck point where we actually go, what can I do here? That kind of moment of, what's going on? What do I choose? That's where we're at. So really important to think about the definitions of the words that we use, and how we're communicating this stuff, because communication is really key, as we talked about in the last Direct Joy, how we communicate for peace. And so knowing where I'm coming from in this Direct Joy is really vital. So choices and variety, that just gives me tingles. That gives me what are we actually inviting? What are we choosing? Where is the variety? And how can we know if we're not sure of the aim and the intention? So this is one of the things. So when you work with me, one of the things that I say a lot is that we need to slow down to speed up. And a lot of people kind of look at me as if to say, yes, I don't want to slow down. I'm already procrastinating. I'm already deliberating. I'm already working out on those gritted teeth of shut up, Cherie, I don't want to slow down. But actually, once you work through the fact of when you slow down, you're able to work out, well, what is my intention? What is my expectation? Where actually am I going with this? Because sometimes there is so much choice and variety that there's a bit of a paradox and it becomes overwhelming. And actually we get anxious about the fact that there's so much choice and there's so much variety. But then abundance at the same time is seen as a choice of and a luxury. So the more choices we have, the more abundant we are, and that's a luxury. So, think about the poor people that don't have choices. Then you get caught in a whole web of shame and guilt. So how do we actually... And Schwartz in 2004 talks about this a lot. He actually has published many papers and written a book, if you're interested, called Less is More. Because actually, the less choice we have, the less variety we have, and you'll notice this in clothes shops. H&M do it absolutely perfectly. And what we see, we want. Then there's more. I have more choice, even though I have less choices available to me. How does that work? And this is the idea, the psychology behind it, is that actually allows us to express our personality more through clothes, through food choices. There might be, I'm a sushi person, I'm a Nando's person, I like curry, whatever it might be. We then start creating these choices that become about our personality, our persona, who we are, what we stand for. And that then starts to form, also on the other side of the coin, things that, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that because that would betray who I am. And then we get some more guilt and some more blame and some more shame. So there's an interesting tension here between what actually these possibilities are, what actually the variety is that's available to us, and how much conscious, unconscious, ego things are actually at play. By ego, I'm sure you'll remember, I actually mean the ego psyche setup, not the ego as in I'm an egotistical person. Okay, so just bear that in mind, please. And if you've got any questions on that, let me know. I might do a direct joy on that, actually. I love the ego. Love the ego, and actually, really want to question my ego all the time too. So anyway, yes, going off topic. So we also need to consider, and this is why we slow down, because all the things that we need to consider actually can bring us a huge amount of overwhelm, because there's some innate choices, okay? We have to do certain things. We feel like we have to go down certain routes and paths because actually there's an innate sense of survival. So be it about actually eating, be it about earning money to put a roof over our head, or making certain choices for our children, making certain choices for our lifestyle. These become kind of innate survival tools that we have to make these choices. And then there's the next level of how we relate to people, the dynamics, the family, because actually I'm Cherie and I'm this person in my family, and I'm Cherie and I'm this person with my friends, and I have to, do I? Is it a choice? Is it not? How do I discern who I am and whether I'm different? What does it mean if I were to come across different? What would it mean if they were to think differently of me? What would it mean if I was that person in that way, coming across in that way? What does that mean for my emotional stability? What does that mean for my anxiety? What does that mean for my social role? And that's tied in very closely, not as much as our innate need for survival for food and shelter, but it is very vital to us, because actually, if you think about it, we're born into a family, we get friends and start social relationships in school and nursery and preschool from a very young age. So actually, thank you for the likes and hello to everyone again. What is it about the fact of that kind of peer pressure, herd mentality? Well, of course it is. Okay, we're going to have herd mentality in our families of origin, whatever that means to us. We're going to have herd mentality in our friendship groups, because actually that's vital to our survival. That's vital. Community. It takes a village. Yeah, one of my other sayings that comes up a lot. It's absolutely vital. As a child, that's how we get food. We don't work as a child for food. You know, that's how we get shelter. That's how we get love. That's how we get acceptance. That's how we get learning. That's how we become. And that is an innate sense of life for us. That's life-giving. But are they choices? That's when it gets tough. Because actually, is it a choice that I am that version of Cherie when I have a conversation with certain members of my family? Am I that version of Cherie when I'm out at a bar with certain friends? Am I that version of Cherie when I play crazy golf? Whatever it might be, how are you that version of you, and what does that mean to you? What can we distill it down to? And life happens fast. We agree to go out to places, we agree to stay in, we make choices fast. So the more that we can slow it down, we can go into observation mode. We can think about it, we can discuss it, we can journal it out, we can dream about it, we can imagine, and we can start to create a world where actually these things become choices. I don't want to get in an argument with XYZ person. Okay, so what do I need to change about me? Because ordinarily, I don't know about you, but I certainly would be like, they said this happened, that happened, this happened, this happened, that happened, this happened. And actually, what is it about my approach, my communication, my choice, my variety? What is it about my possibilities that could potentially then change the situation outside of me, the dynamic with the person that I might or may not be conflicting with? Or even then, to take it to another level, what would it be like if that dynamic with that person and my own relationship with myself could reach another level of understanding? And that's why we slow it down, because we get to see the real range of possibilities. And hopefully we're not overwhelmed by that. Okay, hence the point of therapy. But actually, this is work we can do ourselves. The ego wants the familiar, right? I'm going to go into the ego for a bit, into the structure of who we are, because the ego really wants the familiar. The ego wants me to show up how I usually show up, because that's familiar and that's safe. That's real, that's understanding, that's reliable. It's familiar, it's safe. And when we get to that point of change, when we get to that point of transitioning to thinking about what's different, thinking about really what is my free will in this? What are my choices? What are my possibilities? And I'm conscious that I'm repeating these words quite regularly, because actually we don't ordinarily get space and time to think about this, because our ego wants it to stay familiar, because anything else is scary. It might be scary because of the way, we grew up. Our super ego, or how our super ego has formed, is actually more about the fact of do it this way, it has to be done this way, otherwise for fear of consequence, for fear of punitive action, for fear of just not fitting in. And who wants to be isolated, right? No one. We all want to be at some level with others, whatever that means, and that can be the social fly-by-night, that can also be the introverted just connecting with one other. Okay, and so take that as you will, but as you will literally, this is about choice. So actually, what does that mean for you? Because that's the actual real important thing, is that is it about the impact of others and the outside world and pleasing others and what feels out of control, which is verging on the other thing, right? That's verging on our original definition of what's rude and what's abusive. That's not the kind of choice that we want, is it? The kind of choice that we want is that free will choice, where our desires, our values and our beliefs are actually what are according to us. But how do we know if we're overwhelmed? How do we know if we're in a place where actually it's not working for us? I don't feel this. There's the paradox of choice and free will. Excuse me. How do we know? And ordinarily, I think a lot of the time, what I've seen in my experience is that we look to what's happening outside of us. That's the best place to look for information, because actually we can see what's going on. Is the other person happy with me? Am I along with the herd mentality? Am I doing it right? But actually, I watched a lot of The Wizard of Oz growing up. It was on repeat in my house growing up a lot. The whole yellow brick road thing. Is there one route? Is there really? Is there a right and wrong? What is that fixed thinking about? Now, with a lot of things, let's go back to our original definition of rudeness and abusive, right? Yes, there is. There's right, wrong. But when it comes to our choices, when it comes to our variety, is that actually not what we were getting at with regards to the fact of abundance and an abundance of choices being the luxury? What is it like if our behaviour and our performance and our consequences are based on our true understanding of our world? I'm just going to say that again. What would it be like if our choices, our behaviour, our performance and our consequences are based on our choices, our desires, our values, our beliefs? That, for me, is when we start to decide and not choose. That's when we have a decision that we can make. And it's not necessarily about choosing, because actually any other way would be wrong for us. But that sometimes is not the yellow brick road. Sometimes it's kind of, okay, I need to go slightly off route here. I might need to do something different that my ego goes, no, Sheree, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way we've always done it the last 41 years. And actually we start to go round things, and it might be the longer route, but actually sometimes I need time to process the longer route. And actually my family might not necessarily agree with me. My friends might go, Sheree, what you want this week? But actually, if I've thought about it, I've processed it, and I understand my behaviour, my performance and my consequences, and it feels right for me, isn't that the abundance and the luxury of choice? Isn't that truly my free will? Now, that's when it gets really scary. That's when the scary stuff kicks in, because it's like actually making a choice then. Actually making that decision to say, I discern what's right and wrong. Not the yellow brick road, not the wicked witch, not the lion, not the tin man. There's another one. But actually, how am I getting to what I am at? How am I choosing? That's an interesting one as well, and also one for another direct joy, because that's when sometimes the anxiety of that can be mistaken for excitement, and sometimes the excitement from that can be mistaken for anxiety, because the feeling that we get, and tune into this next time you're excited, so next time you're watching something on TV that you really love, or it's the TV program's about to come on, or you're about to do something that you know is reliably exciting, it may feel very similar to your anxious feelings. So check in with that, because anxiety and excitement can feel similar. They're not the same, but they can feel similar. So just, slow down with that one too and see what evolves from that. We have lots of choices, even though we don't necessarily have the luxury of being able to see them all the time, okay? When we're feeling really, really, really isolated, when we're feeling really depressed, when we're really low in mood, when stuff is not going our way, especially this time of year, before we move into this spring, this time of year is like, everyone's like, yeah, sun's out, yeah, it's brilliant, but actually, are we really feeling it yet? Yeah? Are we really feeling that? When we can't see the choices ahead of us and we feel like we're just following the monotonous path, check out what choices you do have. Slow the processes down. And this sometimes can be as simple as choosing to brush your teeth in the morning on what toothpaste you're using. Is it Colgate or Colgate Whitening? Or is it one without fluoride? Or is it one with this or that or whatever? What health choices are you making? What financial choices are you making? What choices are you making around your emotional and mental health? What choices are you making around going for a walk, even if it's just 10 minutes? What choices are you making for what you believe is truly the stability for you and your innate survival in the path that you're choosing? Because then the more you slow it down, you get to work out and learn what's important to you. And learning what's important to you is contagious, and it's awesome. It gives you that real freedom to really feel that your desires, your values, your beliefs are important, because they are. But the first person that needs to believe it is you. And we all suffer, I really use deliberately, from actually that, do I deserve that? Do I really? Am I worthy of that? And if Direct Joy can say anything and it be heard, yes, you are. So, on that note, I'm going to end for today. Please send me any feedback you've got. It's always awesome to hear all feedback. It's lovely to see so many of you live. It's so awesome. Thank you very much for your loves and likes and cares. That's just brilliant. I love showing up for Direct Joy. I would love to do it every week. So if you do have any questions, please keep them coming, because I want to know what you want to hear about, basically. I am starting a membership program in the next couple of months, so towards the end of the spring. Working on it now, so anything you want to dig deeper into, it's going to be reasonably priced. It's going to be accessible and adaptable for everyone. So that means whether you are man, woman, however you identify, wherever you're at in your mental health, wherever you're at in, whether you're a parent or not a parent, whether you're a grandmother or 17 years old, it is really going to be suitable for everybody. One of the things that I've massively learned, especially in the last 6 months, is that there is not enough out there mental health wise that we can easily access, that we can say, oh, that applies to me, and it applies to my child, and it applies to my grandmother, and it applies to my school, and it applies. Mental health, we all have a mental health, right? We all have an emotional well-being. So let's get this straight. It's just as important as our bodies, because actually that's how we function. This is our world, and this is what we do. So yeah, I suppose it's kind of about the parity, isn't it? Bringing it back to the NHS world, which I used to do a few years ago, which was about having parity between mental health and physical health. It's so absolutely vital, both, to ensure that we are balanced and aligned. On that note, because as you know, I can talk and talk and talk and talk, I look forward to tuning in for the next Direct Joy. In the meantime, we have a blog coming out soon. Subscribe to the website, www.cjoy.co.uk. If you're a like-minded woman, check out my women's circle. I've also got a workshop. I'm going to shut up now because I sound like a promo and I don't want to. But yeah, if you want to know more, get in touch. Always willing to chat and natter. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a very, very, very wonderful rest of the day. Lots of love, joy and peace.